meeting for WWE. I would now like to turn the conference over to Mr. Brian Nurse. Please go ahead.
My name is Brian Nurse, General Counsel, and it's now after 10 a.m., so we can call the meeting to order. As a reminder, today's discussion will include forward-looking statements which reflect our current views based on various assumptions. These statements are subject to risks and uncertainties disclosed from time to time in our SEC filings. Actual results may differ materially, and undue reliance should not be placed on them. Additionally, we may include non-GAAP financial measures in today's discussion. Reconciliation of this information to GAAP can be found in earnings materials available on our corporate website. I'll begin by making introductions and then turn to the business portion of the meeting as described in the notice and proxy. After that, we'll move to our senior management's comments and your questions. Introducing management directors attending this morning's meeting by teleconference are Chairman Vince McMahon, our Chief Brand Officer Stephanie McMahon, our EVP Global Talent Strategy and Development Paul Levesque. Mr. Frank Riddick is our Acting Chief Financial Officer. WWE's independent directors are Stuart Goldfarb, Maureen Ong, Robin Peterson, Manjeet Singh, Jeff Speed, and Alan Wexler. Other WWE executives here this morning are our EVP of Global Sales and Partnerships, John Brody, our EVP of Advanced Media, J.R. Donlin, our Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, Brian Flynn, our SVP Human Resources, Jim Johnstone, our EVP International, James Rosenstock, our incoming CFO effective August 3rd, Christina Salen, our EVP Global Strategy, Brian Stedman, and SVP Investor Relations and FP&A, Michael Weitz. The board has appointed Ms. Linda Piscadlo of Broadridge Financial Solutions as our Inspector of Election. A notice of the meeting and proxy statement were sent, and we have a quorum present. First proposal is the election of 10 directors for terms expiring at next year's annual meeting. The second proposal is the ratification of the appointment of Deloitte & Touche as our auditors for this year. Deloitte's representatives do not have a prepared statement, but they are available if anyone has a question for them. The third proposal is our Say on Pay vote, which is an advisory vote to approve the compensation program for our executives as described in the proxy statement. It is now 10:08 a.m. Eastern Time, and the polls are now open for voting. We would like to remind stockholders that if they have previously submitted their voting instructions via the internet, by phone, or by submitting a proxy via the mail, then there is no need to vote again during this meeting. Stockholders who have not voted or wish to change their vote may do so by following the instructions on the virtual shareholder meeting platform. It is now 10:08 a.m., and I hereby declare that the polls are closed for voting. Please give us a moment while we check the voting during the meeting. Has the vote been tabulated?
It has. The holders of an overwhelming majority of the shares have voted in favor of the company's recommended proposals.
Great, thank you. That concludes the formal part of the meeting, and now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our chairman, Vince McMahon.
Thank you very much for everyone joining us today. Of course, we're in the midst of extraordinary times, unprecedented times in our history, but nonetheless, we have responded by being especially nimble and efficient to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 as best as possible. We're taking extensive precautions to protect our health and safety of our performers and staff, and able to continue to produce compelling content. Given the uncertainties, however, of our evolving environment, we also implemented some cost reduction and cash flow improvement actions. The steps we've taken not only mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on our business, but also help ensure the long-term value of WWE. We continue to believe that we have a tremendous potential to take advantage of the changes in the media environment, and that our long-term growth potential remains strong. We're so grateful for the sacrifices and extraordinary dedication from all of our WWE superstars with the support of their families, as well as grateful for our global fan base and local communities and shareholders who have supported our vision of the continuous evolving WWE. So on behalf of all of us, we'd like to thank everyone. Frank, you want to take it?
Good morning. Let me add my welcome to our shareholders and fans. I'd like to provide a brief review of our 2019 business results, the actions we've taken to address the ongoing and potential impacts of COVID-19 on our business, as well as provide perspective on our longer-term business outlook. In 2019, we had another successful year. We generated revenue of $960 million, representing a sixth consecutive annual record. Revenue from our international markets exceeded $300 million for a second consecutive year. We also achieved record profit with operating income of $117 million and adjusted OIBDA of $180 million. These results were driven by our new content distribution agreements for Raw and SmackDown in the U.S., which became effective in the fourth quarter of last year. The year was characterized by achievements that strengthened the foundation for continuing our transformational journey. We expanded the reach of our live programming across platforms and formats and further engaged with our diverse global audiences. We established new content, advertising, and community partners, introduced new products, and staged more than 500 live events globally. In the fourth quarter of 2019, our new agreements with USA Network and Fox Sports became effective. It not only expanded our audience reach, but began to transform our financial profile. Additionally, we expanded our live in-ring primetime programming to 7 hours each week and moved NXT to USA Network, further building WWE's third global brand alongside Raw and SmackDown. We continued to build our international presence. For example, in the UK, we completed content distribution agreements with BT Sport and Viacom CBS's free-to-air channel 5. And in China, we renewed our content distribution agreement with PP Sports and worked with this partner to deliver a new program, WWE Now China, in Mandarin. For our direct-to-consumer service, WWE Network, we continued to create compelling original programming and further develop the network's technology platform. The latter has enabled us to launch a free version of the network this June and to make meaningful progress towards offering our network in select geographies with local subscription prices offered in local currency. We also increased our presence across other digital and social platforms, providing content for the first time to Twitch and expanding our footprint on Snapchat. We partnered with Netflix to launch a feature film, The Main Event, which was watched by an estimated 25 million viewers, and a scripted series, The Big Show, that ranked among Netflix's top 10 most viewed programs during its premiere week in April. As examples of other important achievements, we further developed our consumer products portfolio with new partnerships and deepened the penetration of our mobile games. We grew our advertising partnerships with blue-chip brands, including deals with Hyundai, Mars, Coca-Cola, Unilever, Microsoft, and KFC, and prepared to develop new sponsorship opportunities. As we begin 2020, we were prepared to leverage our expanded reach, new products, and partners to drive our growth. Beginning in late March, however, the spread of COVID-19 resulted in government mandates calling for the cancellation, postponement, or relocation of live events, including our premier event, Wrestlemania, in April. Understanding that the potential impact of COVID-19 ultimately may not be limited to the sale of live event tickets and merchandise, we rescinded our financial guidance for the first quarter and for the full year of 2020. Our first quarter 2020 results demonstrate that we delivered solid performance in a challenging environment. Our revenue increased 60% to $291 million, fueled by the growth in our domestic content rights fees. Our adjusted OIBDA increased to approximately $77 million based on the escalation of these right fees and the timing of our live events in Saudi Arabia. Additionally, our results exceeded our rescinded guidance of $60 to $65 million, in part reflecting the acceleration of cost-saving initiatives. Our response to COVID has been highlighted by our tremendous creativity. Importantly, we adapted our business to continue to safely stage in-ring performances, produce other content for our global markets and multiple distribution channels, as well as to market our brands. Supporting these achievements, we established extensive safety measures to protect the health and well-being of our talent and employees. mitigate the potential risks to our performance, we evaluated our operations and cost structure and developed extensive contingency plans. As a result, we implemented a comprehensive mix of various short-term cost reductions and cash flow improvement actions. These included reducing executive and board member compensation, decreasing operating expenses, third-party staffing, consulting and talent costs, and reducing employee headcount by way of a furlough. An important outcome of our efforts is that we have been able to substantially offset the loss of live event ticket revenue and merchandise revenue with lower production costs and reduction in other expenses. To enhance liquidity, we also deferred spending on our new headquarters, directly reducing 2020 capital expenditures by approximately $140 million, temporarily suspended the repurchase of stock under our repurchase program, and drew $200 million from our revolving credit facility in early April. As such, we believe we have sufficient liquidity, which totaled approximately $500 million at the end of the first quarter, to manage the challenges ahead. Currently, we're giving careful consideration to the ongoing changes in the media industry, how the economy and consumers will recover, and how we will manage and adjust our business model under various scenarios. We're in the process of developing these plans and related financial projections. We expect to leverage our creativity and talent to optimize performance notwithstanding ongoing restrictions, as well as to develop content for social platforms, our network, our current rights partners, and new platforms to expand our brand. We continue to believe that our fundamental growth prospects remain strong. In our view, we are well positioned and can take advantage of the changing media landscape and the rising value of live content over the longer term. I'll now turn the call over to Michael Weitz to moderate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Frank. We are now entering the Q&A section of the shareholder meeting. As a reminder, if you wish to submit a question, please type your name and question into the Ask a Question field on the website you've used to access this meeting and click Submit. Out of respect for fellow shareholders, we ask you to be concise and limit yourself to 1 or 2 questions. With that, we will move to our first question, and we received several questions on this topic. Specifically, what are the safety precautions we are taking to protect our talent and employees? To answer that question, we'll turn to Paul.
Thank you, Michael. Obviously, as Vince mentioned earlier, the health and safety of our performers, employees, and crew are the company's top priorities. And since the beginning of this, around mid-March, we have been producing content on closed sets with only essential personnel in attendance and following guidelines set forth by our medical team in conjunction with state and local officials and the CDC. Now, the protocol for these closed sets are extraordinary and include heightened safety and sanitizing during use, long-duration electrostatic antimicrobial sprays and coatings, and pandemic-level cleanings and disinfecting between and after our events. As it relates to our talent, production crew, and employees, we conduct COVID-19 testing in advance of any TV or content production using polymerase chain reaction, or PCR testing, which is the most statistically valid, highest level of accuracy test available today. No one is allowed to enter a WWE closed set without a negative COVID-19 test. Once on set, individuals must wear masks when talent are not performing, social distancing, and sanitize where appropriate. In the event of a positive test result, individuals must self-quarantine for a minimum of 14 days and will not be cleared to work until they are symptom-free and test negative. Extensive contact tracing is done following any positive test, and individuals possibly exposed are identified and quarantined appropriately. And this process is constantly being updated. We're looking at this every day. Our medical staff, working with state and local officials, as I mentioned, and the CDC to reflect the most current data and medical recommendations available. Michael?
Perfect. The next question is, how is the free version of the network being used to drive future revenues for the business, and what impact will that have on further network deals? To answer that, we'll turn to Frank.
Thanks, Michael. The free version of the network was launched June 1st as a platform that was designed to effectively convert viewers to subscribers while preserving the value of our premium content. Given this was just launched in June, that we have positive early results, but nothing definitive given where we are. And we believe that ultimately by enhancing engagement and subscription will enhance the value of the network, as well as the economic potential we may be able to realize in a future transaction.
Next question is, how will documentaries such as The Last Ride be monetized further, and when can we expect to see different payment tiers for the network? We'll also turn to Frank for that as well.
So starting with the first question, Undertaker's Last Ride was a huge creative success that generated an extraordinary level of viewership on the WWE network, and is one example of how we can capitalize on the documentary genre. We create value for our company and our shareholders by creating documents that feature our superstar talent, The Undertaker, Roman Reigns, Charlotte, and others, and distributing them on multiple platforms, including our own network. So we see that continuing to drive value. Now turning to the second part of the question on payment tiers, at this time, we do not believe the development of a premium tiered content strategy is the optimal approach for maximizing network subscription value. In the near term, we're focused on leveraging the free version that we just spoke about to enable subscribers to sample our content more easily, develop local currency pricing in select international markets and local currency, as we said, and further develop our advertising capability.
The next question is, are there other interactive fan experiences being discussed to help circumvent the lack of crowd or event revenues? To answer this question, we'll turn to J.R. Donlin. Kate, our operator, please make sure his line is open to answer this question. J.R.?
Thanks, Michael. During these unprecedented times, we've been doing more to engage our fans in an interactive manner, especially on digital and social platforms. This includes everything from live interactive video with our superstars on things like Instagram, to expanding our presence on platforms like Twitch or TikTok. The early results have been very positive for us. In addition to that interactive content, we're also exploring virtual fan meetings and other unique experiences.
Thanks, JR. The next question is, with the continued downturn in ratings, what is management's plans on improving ratings in the long term? We'll turn to Vince for perspective.
Okay. We have a 30-plus year track record of creating compelling characters and engaging a variety of audiences, and we obviously remain confident we can continue that with our collective ability, even in the most challenging environments with no live audience. The media ecosystem obviously has changed, and we change with it. Our engagement metrics across platforms are understandably and obviously, however, the importance of linear programming is paramount in all of our businesses. We consistently have seen year-over-year increases in a variety of digital metrics and engagement, and the positive trends have continued even during COVID. Conversely, TV viewership trends have been negatively impacted by the COVID, obviously, and no lack of a live audience. We are still, nonetheless, the #1 television show in USA and consistently #1 broadcast show on Fridays among key demos. We expect a combination of valuable promotional inventory from our TV partners with the return of sports, events programming, and a deep roster of charismatic talent. We have a positive impact on viewership over the long term.
Thank you, Vince. We received some questions about the volatility of WWE stock, referencing multiple sources of volatility, including management transition. One such question added, do we care about our shareholders? We'll turn to Frank to comment.
Thanks, Michael. Well, first I'd like to say that all the board of directors members and all members of senior management are significant shareholders in the company, and we are very focused on creating value for the shareholders over the long term. And towards that objective, we've achieved some significant financial and operating objectives. Financially, in the first quarter, as we just discussed in my comments, the Q1 financial results were extraordinary in a challenging environment. We've worked on extensive cost reduction programs to offset the loss of revenue, and we've enhanced our liquidity. Operationally, we've been one of the few live production companies producing content throughout the crisis at our Performance Center. We've expanded the production of our content from multiple platforms and markets for our partners, including, as I mentioned in my remarks, the Big Show and Main Event for Netflix, where they performed extremely well, and we successfully launched the free version of the network. In terms of management transition, we recently announced that we've hired Christina Salen as our CFO, effective August 3rd. Christina was the first CFO of Etsy and comes to us with meaningful telecommunications, media, and technology experience. We believe the sources of our long-term growth remain strong. We're managing our business effectively and more than ever have the right executive leadership team to deliver value for our shareholders.
Just one thing just to add to that. Obviously, as far as what do we care, or do we care about our stockholders and shareholders? Obviously, I'm by far the largest shareholder, and I really care.
The next question is, why does WWE not have a WWE channel on Sirius XM satellite radio? We'll turn to Vince for some input on that.
Well, we'll probably get there. It depends on the return on investment, quite frankly, of all the forms and all devices and what have you. We fit everywhere, and no doubt we'll fit in Sirius if it works well for us, just like we explore every other avenue.
Thank you, Vince. We received several questions about our executive leadership and CEO, as well as suggestions as how to reorganize and modify responsibilities. We'll turn to Frank for that.
Over the last several years, we've added several new executives to our leadership team and regularly look at our organizational design and level of responsibilities across the team. As I mentioned on an answer to the previous question, one of the previous questions, Christina Salen has joined us as our new CFO, and the Compensation and Human Capital Committee of our board reviews the CEO performance annually and regularly reviews succession plans for all key executive positions, including the CEO.
Turning back, missed a question earlier. What is the plan for physical capital moving forward? It appears that WWE has discussed a larger footprint. Can you provide an update on this topic?
Due to the uncertainty, as we discussed, because of the COVID-19 outbreak, we decided to delay the construction of our new global headquarters to increase cash flow over the near term, and we disclosed this in our Q1 earnings materials. For the rest of 2020, capital expenditures include the maintenance of our production and technology infrastructure, as well as continued enhancements to WWE Network. And our range of capital spending for the year is we're now projecting somewhere around in the range of $30 to $40 million. This is in line with historical spending levels. We anticipate that in 2021, as we finalize the plans and start construction on the new headquarters, we will experience an increase in capital spending, but we are not giving guidance on those amounts at this time. So,
thank you, Frank. The next question is, why not add fans and shareholders to your board to add diversity and outside perspective? We'll turn to Frank for that.
As I mentioned earlier, all of our existing board members are shareholders in the company, so and in meaningful amounts in some cases. We believe our current board composition includes individuals with diverse backgrounds and meaningful experiences, including in media and non-media businesses, as well as having financial and other expertise that are required for the board. The Nominating and Governance Committee of our board, along with the CEO, regularly review the composition of the board, evaluating experiences, expertise, and diversity, and always look for opportunities to increase the quality of the board.
Thank you, Frank. The next question is, what is the current status of the company's Performance Center near London during this pandemic? Is it operational, closed down? What is the status? And we'll turn to Paul.
Thank you. So the London Performance Center has been inactive since March, thereabouts, due to the COVID-19 issues. We work with local and government officials there all the time, and monitoring constantly, and are looking forward to when talent can get back to training. I know they're all anxious to do it, and hopefully that'll be in the near future. We're also working with our partners there on solutions and ways that we can get back to creating fresh in-ring content as soon as possible for the NXT UK brand. Again, all of that relies on us being able to do that safety, as the safety and health of our talent come first and foremost. So, but as soon as that is something that we can safely do, we will be back up and running.
Thank you, Paul. The next question is, what is the strategy for the NXT brand? To be a minor league AAA equivalent or flagship brand? And how are NXT ratings relative to competition affecting our marketing? We'll turn to Paul.
So I think if you were to look at the NXT brand, it would be both. That while it is, as Frank mentioned earlier, a third global brand, along with Raw and SmackDown and our partners at USA, it is also the place where we make new stars and increase the talent and stars for the future of both Raw and SmackDown. So that is the pipeline, and that is the, if you wanted to say, the feeder system, it is that, but it also has become its own third brand. As far as the ratings go, I'm very happy with them, especially in the current circumstances. Everything is going well. We look at the long term of that, not the short term of that, and the long term is very exciting. We have a lot of stars there, a lot of hungry young athletes, and the pipeline to bring in more as they continue to train and get better is very exciting. The future is very bright in that regard.
Thank you, Paul. The next question is, with fans not in arenas, Brock Lesnar out, and ratings declining, will Vince and new head writer Bruce Pritchard use this time to build up new stars? And I'll turn to Vince for some perspective.
Sure. I mean, you want to continue to build stars no matter what time it is. So as Paul just mentioned about NXT talent, he has done an extraordinary job of creating new stars, and as they continue to evolve, they'll continue to come up through Raw and SmackDown. So there's this influence of new superstars coming into both Raw and SmackDown. And in addition to that, there are ways that we now promote talent in a more effective way, and that's with digital and social media, as opposed to the normal way. We do not have a live audience, and of course that to us is paramount. They're like the third performer in the ring in terms of our interaction with our audience. So nonetheless, it is a good time. Continue with a digital and social imprint and this land grab that we have, and which is substantial. We'll continue that, and again, new stars coming up.
Thank you, Vince. We're now getting quite a few comments live. Quite a few of them concern the potential return of live events with fans in attendance. So I'm going to raise that question, and perhaps we can give some perspective on our views.
Sure. We obviously you have to follow what's going on, and sometimes you think you have the answer, and then COVID-19 makes a more severe impact than you had imagined to begin with. And we're working with arenas, and we have any number of tentative dates. Those tentative dates keep moving back sometimes. But again, our form of entertainment it's imperative that we have fans to interact with, and we continue to look forward to pinpointing exactly when we're going to return. It's a whole different atmosphere than it has been in the past, and we'll capitalize on it.
Following up on that question, there's a follow-up on the potential for an event in Saudi Arabia. More current update on that?
That's a possibility. Obviously, Saudi has been going through what we in America have been going through as far as COVID is concerned. Right now, I think they're doing a little bit better than we are, considerably better. So there's a possibility that we'll still get a show in before the end of the year, as was scheduled. But we're not certain because, who can be certain about what COVID-19 is going to do?
Thanks, Frank. We have a few questions. Frank talked a bit about our capital planning. There are a few questions about the status of our new headquarters. Is there any further that you'd like to provide at this time, Frank?
Well, we're analyzing right now our physical space requirements for both our office workers as well as television and our advanced media group in light of the learnings that we have out of our adaptations to the COVID environment. Clearly, like everybody else, we have a number of people working from home. We have people out on furlough, and so we're working through the new requirements for the space. And also our television production has been able to produce remotely in unique venues, and these things may have long-term effects on our requirements. So we're in the process of analyzing all that now and working on a plan as to how we will develop the headquarters, but we don't have the exact answer at this point in time.
Thank you, Frank. We have a question that came in about women in our content. The question was targeted towards Stephanie in terms of what our thoughts of, given the success of our Women's Evolution pay-per-view, are there thoughts about other content targeted at women?
Absolutely. We've been so incredibly proud of the Women's Evolution that has happened in WWE, providing a lot of unique opportunities professionally for our female superstars. That has actually expanded our brand, including Total Divas, Total Bellas. The Bellas YouTube channel is now well over 1 million subscribers. There is, a number of different shows that are coming out. Rumble, which we've discussed in partnership with Paramount. So any number of opportunities. So the Women's Evolution only continues to rise, and every opportunity that they are given, they're knocking it out of the park.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm trying to scan some new questions coming in, so I'm going to pause for a moment just to take a look at if there are questions coming in that we haven't answered. There's a perennial favorite question here. Will we ever develop a physical WWE Hall of Fame? And then ... once COVID is behind us.
Bricks and mortar is something that, generally speaking, other than office buildings and office space, of course, that we're not necessarily fond of. But nonetheless, again, the interest in that continues to build, and it's still a possibility somewhere down the line.
Thank you, Vince. There's a question about will we ever expand to Hispanic channels such as Univision or Fox Deportes or Telemundo or TBS DECA?
Oh, yes, is the answer to that.
Thank you. There's a question here that's come up about AEW, taking some of our market share. Can we comment on some of the ratings trends related to AEW?
Yeah, and to me, there's a moment in time when you begin something and it's very exciting and it's fresh and there's some interest in it, certainly. But it's a big world. We continue to be focused on our product, continue to be focused on the development of our stars and our performers. And as Vince said earlier, we have a very long track record of doing this incredibly successfully for many, many, many years. And we will continue to do so.
Thank you, Paul. There's a question coming up about COVID, our activities in Florida, and if we have plans if something were to happen to our ability to perform in that area.
Let me just say there's always a B plan. I don't want to say right now exactly what that would be, but yes, there is a B plan.
And then kind of along the lines of our future planning, what are other cities considered for Wrestlemania next year if it can't take place in California?
Again, it wouldn't be fair to mention that now because we're following, the COVID-19 aspect. So many cities are obviously interested in Wrestlemania, and many have bid for it and what have you. This somewhat changes, but from time to time, again, depending upon the severity of COVID, but we haven't announced anything yet.
Thank you, Vince. Also received a question about whether recent cost reduction related to, or were the recent cost reductions related to WWE's partial investment in the XFL?
No, the answer to that is no. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, there are cost reduction efforts, including our response to COVID, has been driven by the WWE's results. Has nothing to do with the XFL.
Thank you, Frank. Apologize for the pause. I'm continuing just to scan some of the questions to make sure that we've fully answered the questions that have come in, and some are continuing to come in right now. I believe we've covered the questions that have been submitted substantially. If there's any follow-up to this call, we feel that we haven't answered any of our questions, please contact us at WWE Investor Relations. Thank you very, very much for joining our call. Hold on a second, this phone is shut off here.